Hi guys, how are you doing today? This is D. Durrell with D. Durrell Life Solutions. It's been a while since I've done some videos and things like that. I've been tied up a lot with work and business, a lot of exciting things that are going on that I am preparing for next year. And I've been investing a lot of time in taking care of my everyday practice issues and business issues and so forth. Also, I've been giving a lot of time for those that have watched my channel, D. Durrell, The Rebirth, and Sectors TV. I've also been investing a lot of live streams and time in that. Last week I was on vacation, had a great time, and relaxed myself. Now I'm recharged and ready to start back doing videos. Now for today, I'm going to focus on a issue that, I'm not one to cloud chase and just jump on any current issue. But I usually like to either wait and see what everybody else has given commentary as it relates to a particular current issue, tragedy, as I'm talking about Rajaee Black, who was a Manosphere supporter, who was a staunch Kevin Samuels supporter, and also who was a person that was a proponent of red pill ideology. And so this is another example of people who profess to be followers and practicing this type of ideology and how it influences violence. Also, we have to focus on the fact that this guy obviously had some level of mental illness, at least at the time building up to him committing murder and suicide, but also the fact that he had ongoing stressors within his primary environment associated with the fact that he had failed relationship with his ex-wife and failed relationship with a current girlfriend. That's multiple documentation to show that this brother was aggressive. This brother showed behaviors that was not conducive to fathering children. Now, I found it very disgusting that there were people on YouTube. I found it very disgusting that people felt like the women were partially responsible for their own deaths. I found it incomprehensible that there were people speaking in the nature of the fact that they triggered him to kill them. Now, do I agree that the women acted in the best interest of the children? I would say no. Would I agree that the women may have could have improved in the way they communicated with him, or as far as issues with the children and issues with his being able to see his kids and so forth, issues with his current girlfriend and so forth? Yes, things could have been done differently. But we, as a community, cannot ignore the fact that this man is and should be held accountable for his actions, and the fact that it's quite obvious that this brother had some level of mental illness. And I'm going to touch a little bit upon the fact that Rajaee Black, in his constant programming of the Manosphere and other red pill communities that he probably followed, were influential in his mindset towards women, which eventually led to him killing these women and himself. Now, I've spoken in many times about the formation and the development of red pill therapy. I'm going to be honest with you, the progress of me developing it the way I want to has been very slow, because it's not the most high priority thing that I have going on. But in 2022, there will be a course, there will be classes, there will be my, I would say, presentation of learning to cope with red pill rage. This brother, in essence, of what he did, was an example of what can potentially happen when you are in red pill rage. And red pill rage is grounded in hate. Red pill rage is grounded in hate and anger despisement of women, to the point that in his mind he thought it was in the best interest of himself to cause bodily harm and kill these women. But we have to look at it from another perspective. See, red pill rage does not deal with the consequences of your behavior, because now these children that he have are now motherless and they're now fatherless. You, Mr. Rajaee Black, and others who think fondly of this type of thinking, never deal with the consequences of your behavior and how it affects others. How does it affect the children? Nobody has spoken of now that these children will go the rest of their life without a mother and without a father. And the blame does not solve anything. As you look at red pill communities, the manosphere, the womansphere, the black sectors of YouTube that like to gather around and fraternize daily about a quote unquote gender war that does not exist in true American society. We fail to understand how this behavior and mindset affects children, affects family, affects others who are associated with these people. These kids now have to grow up without a father. Now they have to grow up without a mother. No telling if they're in foster care or there's other family members who are going to take care of them. Now their reality is that they don't have parents. They have to spend Christmas without parents. They're going to have to spend the rest of their life digesting that they're not like everybody else who has parents. They're going to have to digest and cope with the fact of having pictures, seeing things on social media about their father, seeing things about their mother, and what could have, what should have happened, and never took place. Now let's kind of dive into Mr. Black and what led to him wanting to kill the two women that were involved in his life. What psychological state he could have been in. And for me, I take a look at situations that I have encompassed as a mental health professional in which anger and displeasure and hate are the main ingredients to commit bodily harm or even murder to someone. You see, Mr. Rajaee, for all intents and purposes, as I have seen similar situations like this in my career, just didn't wake up that morning and decide to kill these women. From my vantage point, in the information that I have read, particularly with the notion and the evidence of police reports of him being aggressive and being prevented from seeing the children based on his mentality and his psychological health, I think it was in the best interest of the children to not be around a man, regardless of what the women did, but who was willing to put his kids and the mothers at risk physically because they had disagreements. Mr. Black made a substantial amount of money, and he should have allowed the courts to settle this. And I don't want to hear this within the community, particularly in Black YouTube, about we don't want to put the white man in our business. We don't want to do this and do that. First of all, this is beyond what you don't want to put in your business. The white man is in everybody's business because this is his country and he controls it. So I don't want to hear these excuses of why you chose not to do certain things to be in the best interest of your children, that you created. You procreated with these women. And so every negative and positive thing that you will endure is based on your decision that you, on multiple occasions, made children with these women. And so this is the reality that you have to deal with as a father. Okay? So when people usually that are mentally unsound decide to commit acts like this, they usually fantasize. They usually have subtle thoughts before they act. I would estimate that he probably thought about causing harm to them at least 3 to 6 months before he attempted to do so. I would hypothesize that that was an activating event that occurred where he just had it and he felt like he was helpless or hopeless and that he had no other options in his lack of mental processing based on the fact that he probably in many situations had some issues with his cognitive processing with reality. Okay? The fact that he probably was overwhelmed and distressed psychologically, maybe depressed, and may have suffered some anxiety. And I would even go out on a limb and say he may have endured some form of acute psychosis in the midst of him committing the murders or making that decision. What we must understand is that when he went on Facebook Live, he was crying out that something is wrong with me. When mentally ill people commit crimes and they calmly state what they did, how they're going to do it, and then they told everybody they're going to do it again. As a mental health professional, that was a sign of help me. That's why he went on Facebook Live. If a person really wanted to do these things in their midst of a mental breakdown, they would have not considered going online to tell the world what they were about to do. They just would have went about and completed the job as he did. And I know people may not want to hear this, but I think that going on Facebook Live was a definite cry for help because I'm getting ready to do something very despicable and I'm going to end my own life. That lets me know this guy was suicidal. He probably had thoughts of suicide prior to this. Again, there's some mood instability here. Maybe some mania, maybe depression along with that. There were definite mental health issues all across the board with this brother. And I'm just pointing out subtle things because I'm only anticipating this look. And I'm not diagnosing him with anything. What I'm doing is expressing the symptomology that may have factored in to him committing these heinous crimes. But my question is, Facebook and all these other social media entities have all of this money and resources. You created a metaverse, but you mean to tell me you cannot identify someone being suicidal or at the brink of hurting themselves and you can't contact local authorities in the area to maybe check on this person? I know you know everybody's location. I know you know everybody's information because you sell it to other companies. I hold Facebook partially responsible. I hold other social media entities that have had similar things happening equally responsible when people engage in this level of unpredictable behavior, because they have the means and the technology to identify this as it happens live and prevent it. They do. There are multiple people throughout the years who've committed suicide on Facebook, who fought, murdered on Facebook and Instagram, YouTube, and etc. But of all of these things, if you can take channels down, if you can take down pages when people say racist things, homophobic things, misandrous things, misogynistic things and so forth, or things that are not necessarily true as it relates to COVID and other different issues. You mean to tell me you could not identify a man that just admitted to killing a woman and then getting ready to commit another crime to kill a woman and then commit itself? I'm sorry. It's very difficult for me to believe. So with that, this could have been prevented if this brother would have gotten the proper help, and definitely needing the proper psychopharmacology treatment along with therapy. I don't know whether or not he was in therapy or not, but I do think, based on his behavior and the fact that he had definitely attempted to cause harm and was very disruptive to these women, regardless of how they may have influenced him. It is your responsibility as a human being to control your emotions regardless of how other people provoke you. It showed a lack of impulse control. It showed a lack of discernment. It showed a lack of psychological healthiness from his standpoint. Again, I give my condolences to the children and to the families, including including Rajaee's family and so forth, because they suffer the fact that he's not going to be around either. So this was almost like a Greek tragedy where everybody dies who is involved, and that's quite unfortunate. But see, this also shows the fact that the more socialized and integrated we as African people are, we tend to mimic and engage in behaviors that are of the majority culture, because this typically doesn't happen in the black community. This typically is not how black people create tragedies or solve issues, killing everybody and then committing suicide on themselves. And this also relates to the notion and to the fact that there's a large increase in African American men committing suicide in the last 10 to 15 years at an astronomical rate, and it's climbing. So I'm going to end it at this point. I hope you enjoyed my commentary on the Rajaee Black situation, on the fact of my own perspective from a professional standpoint of why he engaged in these behaviors, what were the things that contributed to him wanting to make these decisions to hurt other people that are the mothers of his children, and then kill himself. Now, also, we cannot ignore the fact that he was involved in online communities that reinforce the fact that you look at black women in a certain way, you treat them a certain way, and it is okay to act out in red pill rage. So again, this is D. Durrell, D. Durrell Life Solutions. Have a great day.